What do you do after managing 90 employees, working 70 hours a week, and shockingly realizing that you're still not fulfilled at work?
What you value is completely different in every decision you make. And I make all my students now take it every 6 months and they go, oh my God, I've changed more than I thought in the last 6 months.
For Matt McCall Stillman, also known as My Broker Matt, it meant leaving the mortgage world behind and jumping headfirst into real estate investing. Matt's story includes whistleblowing, being fired, and discovering freedom in failure.
You see the fork in the road and you take the path less traveled. Once you realize how far you got on something that's not mapped out, and you go, oh my God, I'm actually pretty comfortable in my own skin here.
We talk about buying with excitement, managing risk, and the importance of being just scared enough to know that it's real.
If you go in going, I have to make 80 or I don't make money, and it ends up making 70,000, that's not really a big difference. But if that's the difference of you being above or below your holding costs, it's a massive difference.
I'm Jason Muth, 33-time Airbnb superhost. After 25 years in the media business, I started building my chapter 2 through short-term rentals. Since then, I've hosted over 6,500 guests and their dogs, and now manage more than $30 million in vacation homes, including my own 5 income properties and 22 for clients. This show is all about helping you create a smart stay. Profitable, personal, and built to last. It's real-world hosting done smart. Let's go. All right, we finally got the guy here. We have my broker, Matt McCall Stillman. It's a mouthful to say, as you mentioned. Matt, welcome to Smart Stay Show.
Glad to be here. Thank you, Rory. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, I should hit record literally when we, just when you come into the studio, because we have such great things to say beforehand, and then it's like, okay, we got to count down to get to our show, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it's like, what do we do now? But, we were just having such a great dialogue beforehand. We got to capture that for this whole audience of people who are listening to, figuring out who the heck is my broker, Matt. And I got to say, I followed you for a couple of years online. I forget which account I found you on somehow. We're connected to the short-term rental world. And then somehow I found my way through a mutual connection friend of ours, Blake Anthony Carter, into this WhatsApp community. I'm in this WhatsApp group.
Yep.
I don't even know what this group is, right? But I threw it out there. I'm like, hey, we're recording Smart Station. Who wants to be on it? You raised your hand, which is great. I'm like, oh man, my broker Matt is in this too. Like, this is sweet.
It's been a good group.
Yeah, the group is just, I actually had to silence notifications, and I check them and catch up on them every so often. I don't know what your life is like with your phone going off all the time.
I would say almost every day it goes off, especially when it really gets going. I go, I should have put this on silent, but then I go, oh, that's pretty interesting though. And I struggle with, do I want to read it or do I want to ignore it? And it's actually good, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
Let's introduce you to the audience first.
Cool.
You could do the intro, but Matt is a very well-known face here in the short-term rental world. And if you're new to this business, or you have 1 or 2 properties, or you have this massive conglomeration like you kind of have right now, I think you'll relate to your story. So you're from Michigan, right?
I am from Michigan. Yeah, I started Captain King Corporate America. I worked my way up in underwriting and mortgages, started leading teams. I had 90 something direct reports, working 70 hours a week, commission, salary, and I was exhausted. And before I knew it, I just seen all these people with tax returns with all these rental properties. And I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. Look at them. These guys must have it figured out. They're so smart. And every time I talked to them saying, can you send a bank statement? They'd send me their driver license. And I was like, how are these idiots so smart? And they have I don't get it. Like, how can you not figure out how to send a bank statement, but you have 50 properties? And I was like, oh, you know what? I've now learned that I am that idiot too, because I get so overwhelmed. I just start sending documents sometimes with my refinances. And I started to see that other side, but I was constantly fearful. Like, can I do this? Could I do this? And eventually I just took the plunge. And it's a kind of this thing I've always said after I grew anyway. The first property doesn't change your life, but it does change your mind. Mm-hmm. The second property establishes that you can repeat success. The third property proves that you can follow a pattern. And after that, before you know it, you're at 7, 8, 9, 10. And I think at our peak at 51, we had 51 houses owned at a single time. And I was like, okay, I'm actually overwhelmed. Let's scale back a little bit. We got a little bit more critical about what we bought, but that's probably been the biggest thing. Just kind of going from a non-believing, I didn't believe in myself. I had I had a lot of confidence issues. I was a very submissive leader. When it came to, when you show up to your job and you talk to your boss, you're like, yes, sir, no, sir. That was that submissive thing. And I don't know if you've ever done it, but sorry, I'm on a rant here. This is how it starts, guys. Apologies. But have you ever done the personality tests, like the 16 personalities test?
Like long time ago, like back in corporate America, we had to do them every so often.
So I highly, highly recommend try to find it, look at your results, and now take it. And you will not believe you are the same. You'll see proof you are not the same person. Your logic, your decision-making tree, what you value is completely different in every decision you make. And I make all my students now take it every 6 months and they go, oh my God, I've changed more than I thought in the last 6 months. I think about business. I think about how I communicate with people differently. And it's just kind of like, as you get a couple degrees off your normal path, before you know it, you're in a different state, you're in a different country, and you're seeing the world finally for what it's worth. You're not stuck in your little town thinking that this is all there is. So, and
I gotta say one interesting thing, with one of our businesses, Pride Away Stays, which is the co-hosting business in Provincetown. We're up to 21 properties as we record this.
It's great.
There, but like a year ago we had 4 or 5, and it just kind of scaled up organically. Plus we did some smart marketing, and we've maintained a 4.96 on Airbnb with lots of 5-star reviews. So like we're doing something right, and it scales upward that way. And I look back at photos. I don't know if you ever did this, Rory, because I have all of our photos, right? Like we just have, I'm the one that takes the pictures and has 50,000 in my photos, and Rory every so often contributes a handful. I look back at these photos from like 18 months ago, and I look like the same human. I'm grayer, but today, but yeah, I'm different. Like you're different because you think differently, because 18 months ago I was like, oh, maybe we'll launch this business, who knows if it'll work. And then you're like, oh my God, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, it's going so well.
I'm happy you share that, because that's exactly how it goes. That journey to that point where you see the fork in the road and you take the path less traveled. Once you realize how far you got on something that's not mapped out, and you go, oh my God, I'm actually pretty comfortable in my own skin here. Maybe I should have done this sooner. And that's when it just gets so exciting. So I love hearing stories like that personally. So glad you shared that with me.
Rory, bring us back to reality. We're talking some like mindset stuff that people that are working the W-2 jobs and have the 90 direct reports and are submissive 70-hour-a-week employees like Matt was. They don't see this because they're stuck in the commute to and from work every day. They're stuck in the day-to-day. They don't see what their life could be. And this isn't a podcast to, coach people into what your life could be, because we want everyone just to live their best lives. And if they're happy with what they're doing, that's great. If they want to find a different way, then we could help them with that. But, Rory, bring us down to reality. Bring us to something practical right now.
Well, let's connect it, right? So having that job, so you actually worked, in a real estate related field, and you gained some practical experience and probably helped your financial position that allowed you to take that first step. So when we talk about the mindset and moving on, I don't think we're saying that, the work that you're doing in your W-2 job is not important. It's not helpful. In fact, it very well is the first stepping stone that helps get people into where they're going. So tell me a little bit of that, and maybe bring us down a little bit, how you pivoted from the job that was taking up 70 hours a week and moving on into, real estate, actual investing.
Don't kill me, but this is actually a little gold nugget I've also shared. And I think what's interesting is conceptually, a lot of people think, oh, I'm quitting my job to start a new business. But it's not that. Your skills that you learned in your job are transferable. Like, it's a new job, but it's under your own umbrella. That's the real big difference. They're transferable skills. You still got to show up. You still got to email people. You still got to communicate. You got to make some people happy. And you got to get some dollars in, right? And it's just contracting on your own. There's no more middleman. Your employer is the middleman to the product you're selling to the end consumer, right? That's what it is in employment. But as a business owner, you're the person. You're business to business typically, or it could be consumer. But I think in that transition, if I'm still following and tracking here, there's the fear element, but once you're past that, once you're in it and you just commit to like that first 3 to 6 months of really going at it. In fact, for me, it was becoming a real estate agent and buying my first couple of rental properties. I went from making $250,000, $60,000 a year, working almost 70 hours a week, to barely making 40 grand that year. And oh boy, did I felt every part of that change. But God, did I feel proud again. I haven't felt that inspired and that proud. And I probably worked 80 hours a week, but I was proud. And I started to believe I could actually do this. And that was worth the whole gap of another 220 grand to me, because it changed everything about where I was going from there. Can you relate to that?
Yeah. And I bet, well, first of all, I bet you kept most of that 40 because you wrote a lot off against it, right? You
That
know,
also
unlike,
helps.
you know, giving 40% to the government.
Much lower tax margin at that point too.
Yeah. You know, we didn't have a clean break with what I was doing. I mean, it's been at the time of this recording, it's almost 3 years. So it'll be over 3 years after this comes out. And, you know, we had income from 2 short-term rental properties that we owned at the time. And we had a couple irons in the fire and some things working that were going to be more properties, which are now more properties that we own. But I had, you know, like I had that base income, you know, and that was more than we were getting with the short-term rentals. So like when that ended and, you know, we just kind of finished up severance and everything and that was done. Years ago we finished up. We still had that income from the properties, right? So we still had, you know, I think at the time the properties were bringing in about $120,000 or $130,000, like just those 2, you know, and we did have expenses to offset mortgages and interest and insurance and supplies and that kind of thing. But still, we didn't start from zero, right? Sure. It wasn't like a clean break. Did you leave your job or were you let go or like, was it like you're done?
I'm proud to admit I was fired.
Good for you.
Yeah. And it actually really helped in that moment of being fired. It's funny. My wife, is a pharmacist. She had to choose to leave her job, which I would argue is much harder. But when I left, here's a funny story, actually. I left my job. It was at the time, the whole company was under a lot of fire with FHA for doing some very gray things. And when I first got fired, I actually thought I was being punked because what I got fired for, no one has ever been written up for. And I was like, what is happening? I was like, all right, come on guys. Like the joke's kind of getting weird, starting to feel real. And they're like, no, we're serious. We got to let you go. I was like, we don't even write people up for this. What are you talking about? And then I got canned and I was like, oh my God, my life's over. What am I going to do? And I got another job as an underwriting trainer at UWM. And once I got there, I was like, oh man, I don't think I can drink the Kool-Aid anymore. And I got real serious about getting my second and third property. I finished up my real estate license there and I just quit. Yeah. Actually, no, I got hired one last time, got recruited to go run a mortgage company, right as I was getting ready to quit. And I was like, I guess I could go check this out. I go check it out. Turns out it was really an illegal cash grab thing that was taking advantage of senior citizens. I whistleblew. They got shut down by the FBI. I got fired too. But I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm done working for people. I'm just, you can't end on a much crazier note than that. And you know, it was just that moment where I was like, I think I needed that to happen. I needed to see that there are, no matter what, if you're not happy where you're at, it's because you haven't found where you should be. And as I kind of made that transition, it just got better and better. I hope I answered your question. Sorry about that.
I'm just concerned. Are you in witness protection right now or something? Or
no, I probably have more allies on that than imaginable. It was really bad. It was really sad. And I have a lot of documents that prove that it was wrong what they were doing. I actually told people, the long and short was they'd reach out to veterans. They'd say, oh man, you need cash right now? And you go, yeah, my water tank went out. I don't have enough money. And they'd make them sign this document that committed their next 10 payments of their VA benefits to them. And they're like, that's 10x return for the record for what they were getting. Get $1,000, but then they have to commit 10 grand to paying them back. And once I realized what we were doing in the first few weeks, I was like, this is not good. And then I got written up for like one of the VA's calls and I don't think I can make my payment. I was like, then don't make it. And they're like, you can't say that. We could fire you for that. I was like, I don't care. I just stopped caring. I started whistleblowing. I was like, I'm done. I can't believe companies like this exist. It's just sad. So
what's interesting is the whole, when you stop caring, your mind wasn't in anymore. You've transitioned into a world where I'm guessing you care very much about what you do. I mean, like your name is on the line. You've built up businesses. Talk about fulfillment a little bit and how what you're doing. You have a two-year-old you just mentioned, like you have a family, young parents. Like how is that much different from this world that you came in that had degrees of predatory elements of it and, that kept firing you?
Oh man. I'd say in the beginning, before we really built up the portfolio, and there was no kids, I was able to take those risks a lot more easily. And as I grew, I started realizing there's new risks. I have a lot more properties in a lot more zoning districts that are changing their zoning. And I had to work with the cities. I had to learn how to advocate for my properties, teach my friends and my investor clients how to advocate. And I'd say it continued to really evolve once we opened up coaching. When we started that, I started to notice, these are people I'm setting up for long-term relationships with, just like my clients, but just deeper. We're doing weekly late night calls. We're answering each other's messages all throughout the week, 7 days a week sometimes. Right. And then I started realizing, like, to continue to grow the right companies and build the right history of success, I have to be spot on. I can't half-ass any. At the office when I was corporate, I mean, I'd have days where I was really good, and I have days where like I need to take an L. I need to just kind of breeze through today. But with business, when you own your own thing, when your reputation really matters, you can't really do that. But also it helps when you actually enjoy what you do to care about it when maybe you're a little tired. So as that kind of evolved, I got really good at kind of managing that. And, it's so true. You quit your 9 to 5 to work 24/7. Like it's not really a full, 24 hours a day, but you kind of are on call because you're always trying to figure out how you're going to build your next thing. But I'd say the last thing I would add to that would be, now that we're a couple years into coaching, and seeing some of my students now buying their second properties and seeing that success and watching, like when you buy your property and you're getting it set up and it's getting really expensive and you haven't earned $1, we call it the messy middle. And when you're in that messy middle, you're like, you start second guessing yourself, start questioning why the hell you're even here. You're like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. Like, what was I thinking? My friends and my parents said this would be stupid. And then boom, you get your first booking and you go, you start breathing again. You go, oh, okay. Somebody liked it. I just need about 100 more people to like it now. Let's go. And as they see that and they come out of that messy middle, they become tempered in that fire and they come out like, do your worst. Like they are ready for battle. And seeing that transition in people has got to be one of the best parts of being a coach for me, because I see that and I start seeing them coach other people up. And that's been one of my favorite things about coaching, and just that transition of what I became. Now I get to kind of share that with the people in the future that are becoming like me.
I want to ask about the coaching a little bit. The coaching is STR Legend. Is that right? Or is there?
Correct.
Okay. So, Smart Stay Coaching is also an entity that we're about to scale up. And I've been part of coaching programs, 2, kind of 3, but 2 real ones that I really have invested in, including one to help us launch the coaching program, which is new for us to have launched that. But, I learned a lot from STR Secrets, which I've talked about on this podcast, as to how to launch a co-hosting business, and really just follow that playbook. And, I didn't just follow it blindly. I followed the structure and the playbook. And then I said, okay, for this market, here's what I think I need to do. And I think that's why it became pretty successful pretty quickly on the co-hosting side. But I really didn't have the patience to learn it myself. I said, I just want to follow the blueprint, which is what we're going to do for the coaching business. Talk about the coaching side, because you mentioned something about 7 days a week, late night calls. we talk to a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that are on podcasts that want to work 4 hours a week and then golf the rest of the time and play pickleball. I'm gathering you're not that, but maybe you are. And coaching probably is probably not a good thing to do if you want to be that, right?
I really think people underestimate. Yeah, you can coach. You can do 4 hours a week. Sure. I don't think you're going to have great return value. Think about when you are lost and you're trying to figure out something for the first time and you're trying to do something big. Maybe you're quitting your job to do something big. You want the lifeline. You don't want like, hey, occasionally I may respond to you if I'm not overwhelmed and in order of operations, or maybe there's so many messages that coach is getting that you do get lost in the shuffle. And what does that person feel? Skipped. They feel lost. They feel shitty. And for me, I'm very critical about coaching. I've spent maybe $130,000 on coaching for me. Mm-hmm. And I've probably only met 2 or 3 coaches ever out of probably 8 that were actually good. And that is why I got into this. I was actually pretty disappointed with what was out there when I wanted to go see something. And I was getting sick of, this is how I work. This is when people aren't providing something healthy and good, I go, screw it, I'm going to build it myself. Mm-hmm. And I saw that. I saw a lot of people in big coaching programs going, hey, can I get some help buying a property? I can't figure this out. I don't know. I wasn't taught how to underwrite. I wasn't taught how to handle this part. And a lot of coaches go, hey, we're going to teach management, which is good. But if you're not teaching the property when you're in if you're teaching acquisitions, you can't teach acquisitions. It's a major gap because you can screw up the management. You can screw up the design. You can screw up your cleaner. You can screw up your handyman. You screw up the house. That's not easy to fix. The other 4 are. The other 4 are very easy to fix. Mm-hmm. But the house is so critical. So why did I build this? I built it because I felt like there's a massive, serious gap. And what needed to be present, in my opinion, and what has really, the numbers have proven it, when you are there and you are truly helpful and you have the real experience to actually lift these people up to a new level, one hand lifts you, one hand pulls, that type of mentality, the leading from the front, another way to put it. It changes everything for people. It gives them that confidence to move forward. And once they've established that, they go, oh my God, I'm standing on top of this new mountain I've never been on top of. I feel strong. I feel confident. And making people feel strong and confident changes everything about their lives. Think about the first time you guys felt strong and confident in any role or accomplishment. You go, oh my God, I did this. This is great. Coaches need to think, how do I make that possible for everybody I'm bringing in? Because I think a lot of coaches are just playing the money game and they don't really care. And you have to wait. Is it only money or not? Because the truth is, part of me enjoys coaching so much that I would do it for free. Mm-hmm. I won't, because I used to do that. Yeah. And I need to protect my time more than ever with the kids. But after that's all said and done, you have to love coaching. You have to love helping people improve their lives. And if you don't, then you probably just shouldn't be one.
I also think that the people that take the plunge and decide to spend money with somebody to teach them something are the more serious people who are actually going to take action. And it also needs to be a certain level, investment level, because they are going to make that investment. They're going to maximize that investment. If you make it so low ticket and, affordable for everybody, you're probably going to get a lot of people coming through that aren't really going to act upon that because it didn't really mean that much to them. Right. They, so there's that delicate balance that everybody tries to figure out when they're building their programs. But talk about some of the more recent students that you have versus a couple of years ago and what they're facing in the short-term rental market today.
Great question. It's probably a really good time to offer some viewpoints of some of the students that are returning for their second property now, and how that temperature has changed significantly, especially with regulations. I do think that the quality, like you were hinting, I think this was before the call, but the quality of management and design and amenities has to be better than ever. And, before, I heard a very well-known coach on stage saying, hey, all you got to do is have a great listing. No, no. Like before, you needed a nice place, some furniture. Actually, way before, you just needed an air mattress.
A couch. Yeah.
Yeah, a couch. And then it became maybe a room. Now you need your own place. Now you need great furniture and you need great designs. You don't have wallpaper, you're probably not even in a mode of competition. You don't have at least 2 or 3 like amenities, and I'm not talking air conditioning and a kitchen. You're not even playing in the ballpark that you need to be. You might argue you need 5 these days. You need to feel like an Instagrammable experience. And on top of that, you got to make sure you have regulation. And the best thing I think anybody can do is start buying properties that have and need add value. If you're not, and that's the Burr method. When you bring the Burr method to short-term rentals, I think you really have a major opportunity. It also improves your exit plan because we want people to be protected with their investment. But beyond that, there's another couple of things besides a great listing and a great online guest book. You need marketing. You need some type of revenue management. If you can't do it in-house with 1 or 2 properties, I think you can still very much do it in-house. You can be very dialed in, but at our size, we had to hire it out. It's just a lot to do, and you have to pay attention to each one. And I'll tell you what, national revenue managers, and depending on where you're at, they don't always get it. They know macro data, they don't know micro data, and you have to have a micro view on whatever your unique area or location is and what your property is. Because I've also seen, because I've had multi-units properties on the same block, very similar houses, do night and day different values. And why? Because there's the anomaly of just, it's a different house. It might be a slightly different algorithm, and how you listed it could just be some weird thing you can't spot. And we like to also identify that for people, because if you going, I have to make 80 or I don't make money, and it ends up making 72,000, that's not really a big difference. But if that's the difference of you being above or below your holding costs, it's a massive difference. And if you're going for a property that only makes 10K net a year, that's a bad buy, just for the record.
Yeah. It is a big difference. I mean, like that goes from the property paying for itself to you having to kick money into it every year, every month, right? I mean, that's
Correct.
a couple car payments for many people.
Well, what's your seasonality? You said Provincetown? That's where you're at?
Yep. Yeah. P-Town is where the business is. And then we have 4 properties in New Hampshire as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you probably have similar great summers, kind of low winters.
Low is an understatement for Q1, but I think about 2% of the revenue for the year comes in the entire quarter.
Okay, and you might have a true anomaly comparatively, because you probably have, actually you might have even higher. I tell most people on average, summer bookings for the 3 months of summer are about 40 to 60% of your total annual revenue. You sound like you might be 60 to 80.
So, no, it's north of 60, but so July, August is probably 45% of revenue.
Wow.
And then throw June in there, it's probably north of 60. When we built our budget for this year, I honestly did it based on the property that we've owned there. Rory and I have a place there. We've had it since 2018?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 2017, yeah.
2017? Okay. No, 2018. It was right before Cecily.
Okay.
Yeah, 2018. So, but we had years of history of that one condo. So I said, all right, this is better than nothing, right? So this is kind of where I think the revenue is going to fall for the year when we were planning our P&L, for the year. Mm-hmm. And it was actually, I think when the year is over, I'm going to be able to make some adjustments. I wasn't too far off with what I thought each month was going to do. I was, plus or minus a couple percentage points. But the first quarter was even lower than I thought. It was probably even lower than 3%. It's probably 2% for the year, right? And then it starts to ramp up in late April, and then the fall is better. I would say the fall is a little bit better than the spring, because the springs here in New England can be so intermittent. We've just had 13 weekends of consistent rain on Saturdays. That's never happened before here, and that definitely affects people and their willingness to travel. And the booking window is so tight. Unless you're booking one of the theme weekends or the high demand weekends, I think about 40%, 45% of the bookings we took in the month of June were for bookings arriving in June. And that was a bit of a shock to me. I didn't think it was going to be that high. Yeah.
Yeah, I would not have guessed that either.
It's a bit of a wacky market also because most of the units are owner occupied. I mean, they're not there when they're renting it out, but like this is most people's second home. There's very few people that are investing in P-Town unless you already have a lot of money and you already own a place in Provincetown. I mean, maybe 3 or 4 of the properties that we have are pure investments. The remainder are properties that the owners use and they're near and dear to their hearts. So, we're adapting our business to that, but we knew it going in. We knew that was the type of customer that was there, and we built the business around that.
That's awesome. I hope you keep growing it. I'm sure you will. But you obviously have like your niche there and you're doing a great job. So I have a lot of more questions about that maybe after the show.
Absolutely. Now you said you're working on another hotel. So that means that there is a hotel.
There was.
There was.
Yeah, we
Okay.
sold it last year. It was in California. It was our first attempt to go out of state ever really with a real estate investment. I'm a half Californian. My dad's out there still. But I thought it would be great because, this will give me more reasons to come see Pops. And I did not enjoy that experience. That was a tougher deal. It was near Desert Hot Springs. It's near Palm Springs, California. And we definitely had a tough time with the management, the workers out there. It was a very transient town, but not in like the travel sort of way. Just people come and go. We had extortion issues. We had people doing drugs on the property and then plumbing our toilets. And it was just like, I can't have you doing this in the parking lot while guests are watching you right before you plumb the toilet or after, for that matter. It was very tough to manage. But out here, after I did that, I joined a hotel mastermind, and that was a great coach, Blake Daly. And since then, we've had 2 other contracts with hotels following through, usually at an inspection or value. And we're looking at 2 more right now. We're trying to negotiate the right price. Hopefully we'll be under contract in the next 30 days, but those will be Michigan based. I'm going to stick with Old Faithful over here. It's been good.
Rory, that's a good testament to sticking with what we know, right? And we've talked about this on the podcast, and all of our investments are in markets that we're familiar with. And that lets us sleep better at night.
Yeah.
And we haven't ventured out.
I mean, you mentioned earlier just the fact that the properties perform on a micro local basis. You really have to understand the side of the street that you're on, the precise neighborhood you're on, what exactly people in that market are looking for, which I think makes it very difficult for somebody to travel across the country and do it. I'm sure there are people who have done it and done it very well, but being able to understand, why people are traveling to your backyard, I think goes a long way. So I know not every part of the country performs as well as the optimal markets, but I still encourage people to look locally, and if they're looking for the first market, because you have an advantage just by knowing what your area looks like and what it does.
It's funny you say that because as a real estate agent broker, when you start off in real estate, you haven't done a single deal, and you have to pick wherever the deal happens, right? And as you grow, at least this was the mantra 30 plus years ago, they'd say, you should only do real estate where you're used to. And there is still truth to that or where you're experienced at. But when you're first starting, you have no experience is the point. You don't have a baseline. So wherever you start on your first one, if you want to go deep, you're intentional about it, and that's where it's going to be, then great. I do think there is always an ease to being, within a couple hours or closer of wherever you do live, because it is what it is. Now, coincidentally, going against that whole thought, the bulk of my buyers, the bulk of my students are West Coast, Washington, California, Colorado, got a Floridian in there too. And I think one from Nevada coming right now too. So I don't know how that happened. Probably just lower price, cost for entry, barrier to entry when it comes to the pricing. That's probably why they come here, and that's fine. But I do think as you establish things, especially when you have good people to go to that actually share their resources, contractors, handyman, cleaners, it really can make it easier. But obviously, just like you can't have somebody go, hey, I'm going to open up a co-hosting company in P-Town. Can I have all your cleaners and this and this? And it's like, you're like, I can't share that. It's kind of proprietary at this. It's not, you're not trying to be a jerk, but it's like, now if you're on this side, if you want to join my company and help us manage this, then, and you want to bring these and I'll give you a percentage, then that could be a different conversation. But
I will say there is virtue in managing from afar. I think particularly if you're slightly more advanced, because it forces you to have good habits. I think if you do have something that is in your backyard, there's always this temptation to solve it yourself, to hop in the car and go do it, to make the arrangements yourself. When you are managing it from afar, you can't do that. So you really do have to have your systems polished up and your resources in place. Otherwise, you just can't do your job.
I completely agree.
Yeah. Let's start to wrap things up a little bit, because we could probably go on for 3 more hours. But we'll have to have
my
you back
apologies.
on another. No. Hey, that's on us as well. But let me ask one last question. If you could leave our audience with kind of one big thing of advice for people that are looking to buy their first short-term rental today, that they might not have needed to consider a couple of years ago when you first started doing it. Like, what are some of the things that you're telling your new students who are saying, hey, listen, because the deal with real estate is that, the way life works is people get older. Pretty simple thing, right? You get older, you finish college, you live your 20s, you get married at some point, maybe you live in an urban environment, you start making some good money, you want to make some investments, you find your way to real estate, and then you say, hey, this is a great avenue for me to, purchase a primary home, get some wealth, and then buy a second home. I don't think that's ever going to change, right? That evolution is probably going to continue to happen. So people are going to keep buying second homes at some point, or they'll inherit them from people. What are the things that you tell people today that they might not have needed a couple of years ago?
It's a really, really good question, and it's complex. I'm trying to think about how to simplify it. I think the biggest thing I see with people trying to buy a second home or their first short-term rental is they're it always starts with being a little lost. They have an idea of what they want, but then there's a reality of what will actually help them and how they can accomplish it. I've had people that want to start off by hitting third base and home runs, and some people, I'm like, you're not ready for the V8. You need a 4-banger right now, right? You need something simple, something that's just going to get you the skills and a comfort level, but it probably will just make money. And some people they see the Michael Alfontes out there who are, doing $1 million, $2 million deals. And it's like, probably don't recommend that, because incredible wealth comes incredible risks. It pairs up, the high risk, high reward. So I think the biggest thing is to kind of really look at what is your capacity and what will actually be the end all. What's my worst case? At the very least, as long as I'm not bleeding every month, this is a good deal. Or is it, hey, you have those people that they just want to go out swinging. They go, if I'm going to try this, I want to be excited about it. I want to go for it. Then sometimes you need to go a little bit crazier with what your first investment is. Mm-hmm. And I guess when it comes to buying, that's actually one of my big rules. And this is tough because it's not everybody's financially able to do this part. But if you're not at least a little excited about any deal you're buying, you have no business buying it. Because when you're starting off in an adventure, nobody wants to, hey, let's book a trip to a country I never wanted to go to. Like, yeah, you're traveling, but so what? You don't even want to go there. Like, just to check a box and say you traveled, you got to be excited, because when you get there, if you're spending the money and the energy, you better come home with, hey, although it maybe didn't work out, it wasn't quite the trip I wanted, here's what I learned. And yeah, it did get me wanting to do more. If it doesn't get you to want to do more and feel satisfied with the result you gained and the experience you gained, you should not do it.
I would add, it's important to be a little nervous too. There's no guarantees with anything. Healthy fear. I think that, Rory, being a real estate attorney, you're at closing tables a lot. People are signing lots of papers at these. Matt, you're at these as well. People have nervous energy in the room, right? You're like, oh, what do I have to sign? What am I signing? And you're mentally saying, when's my first payment? How is this all going to work out? I think that's good.
How do they get me? What am I missing? Do I need to look like I'm smart reading these things? Or Like I've had people that literally read every document. I'm like,
Mhm.
they're not trying to get you. It's fine. Just,
Yeah.
but okay, do what you got to do.
So just to wrap things up, my broker Matt on IG, Instagram, probably one of the easiest ways to find you, right? Because your link tree is there and it links out to everything.
Yep. We're on YouTube too. We're doing a lot more long form, and we're kind of we took a big Hermosian turn in the last I'd say 6 months. We still have quite a video library for our students. Video libraries are great, and there's stuff that for self-teaching, but people really want the time with the coach, right? But in that thought and that train and that change, we started putting out just good content. These are real how-tos on YouTube because the short form's good, but the long form really it offers stickiness. People might go, oh my God, this guy's actually teaching some real stuff. And on top of that, like, I'd rather the free stuff at least get people further along than what I've seen, because it really grinds my gears when I see people not being served. That's a real sad thing. I'm sure that comes from like crazy old school stuff of just growing up around people that just wanted to take advantage of people. But, I can tell you guys are great. I'm sure what you kick off is going to be awesome too. Definitely here to root you guys on. If you ever have questions, feel free to reach out.
Oh, there will be questions.
I love it.
Now that we're BFFs.
Yeah.
Hey, Rory, where can people find you if they want some legal advice?
You can find me at my law firm, str.legal, str for short-term rentals, .legal, no .com or anything
Awesome.
like that. Yep.
Excellent. And if you like the episode, we love 5 reviews. We love you subscribe and tell people all about it. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube. We have a great YouTube channel also. We just subscribed to yours today, Matt. So,
well, I'm going to return that favor, and I look
there
forward
we go.
And Rory, you're on that, right? That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
YouTube. Perfect.
Yeah. He's on this. I mean, this podcast is up on YouTube, and there's hundreds of episodes of Rory talking.
If I could say one last thing, it's having an actual good attorney when you're doing this stuff is so necessary. Somebody you can talk to, shows up, and actually has a spine. Like, you cannot. There's so many attorneys you can hire out there. This is me, free advertising, Rory. Here you go.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Keep going.
Like, I've had probably 9 or 10 attorneys since this game started, and there's only 1 or 2 I still talk to, because there's people that go, oh yeah, you can't do it, and there's people like, you can't do it, but here's some gray area. If we follow that logic, there's also this logic. There's this gray. Here's where we need to stand. And again, like, this is something I've learned over time. A lot of times when you need to rezone a property to make it legal, you can do spot zoning. And the thing that people are sleeping on, which is what I've been doing lately, is I just go, hey, I think you actually have a zoning issue and you're leaving money on the table as a city. And this can work for your neighbors and for the people that are trying to give you guys money. And so I'm suggesting completely rewriting their laws and regulations regarding short-term rentals. I'm showing them how to protect themselves from having like obnoxious guests and stuff like that, because I think the spot zoning is a temporary fix that can be revoked anyway. So it's like, you got to be mindful of that. You want attorneys that get those conversations. So
yeah, and in a similar vein, you want the attorney to be able to look at the bigger picture. What are your overall goals? What are you working towards? Because if you look at everything too narrowly, that's where you get those decisions saying, yes, you can do this, or no, you can't do that, with no real creativity. There will be some situations where you unfortunately get the no, you can't do that. But if this is your goal, you can still achieve it by doing it this way. And I think having an attorney in your team who sees the bigger picture, I think, is critical. And that's what's kind of that's not always there in the legal market.
Rory Gill, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, there we go. I love reopening the discussion during the conclusion, but we appreciate that. That was awesome. And at that note, we'll leave it right there. So thank you for listening or watching, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, guys.